Ray, this is something that is perhaps not being talked about as much as it should have been after the assassination bid on Trump. Tighter gun laws, gun control in the United States. Why aren't the Republicans talking about it? Why isn't anybody talking about just stopping gun culture in the United States?
Well, many people are talking about stopping gun culture in the United States. They're just not members of the Republican Party. Now, this is something that's been going on for a long time. I think you can trace it back to the civil rights era in the 1960s. I mean, after that, starting in the early 1970s, the National Rifle Association really turned up the rhetoric about people arming themselves. And they've been promoting a culture of fear. And in the meantime, we have seen more and more mass shootings, many involving automatic weapons, that nobody in the United States needs to have. I mean, Pennsylvania is hunting country. Many real hunter will tell you you don't need an AR-15 to go hunting. That's a weapon that's really only meant to kill people. And so how did it get in this guy's hands? And not only that, but Donald Trump toured the factory that made this weapon. He has promoted this gun culture time and time again at the Republican National Convention. There are giveaways for AR-15s. I mean, the irony is stunning, but yet they're not calling for, a ban or reinstating the ban on these assault weapons that existed between 1994 and 2004, but they should. And this is not a partisan position. Most Americans think that it's astonishing that somebody can get an AR-15 and take a shot at anyone, much less the former president of the United States.
Yeah. Ray, also, let me then ask you, just how this whole political campaign has changed since the assassination bid. While, of course, this will work in favor of the Republicans, the kind of sympathy that Donald Trump is getting after Saturday, will Democrats be sort of relieved that, an Iranian hand in this entire saga has been claimed by a CNN report, perhaps just taking away the focus from Democrats being blamed for this entire situation?
Maybe, but I don't think the Democrats are actively promoting this Iranian angle to take the heat off themselves. I mean, the claim that the assassination attempt was the fault of Democrats has always seemed ridiculous to me. I mean, Donald Trump has been a tremendously divisive candidate and president. I'm not saying he deserved to be shot at, but he has been a divisive person, and he has had his share of, very controversial statements about, his opponents, other candidates, et cetera. So I don't believe that, the Democrats are responsible for this. Will they take some comfort in the fact that there's an Iranian angle? I really doubt it.
Okay. Raymond Vickery, when we talk about the U.S.-Iran relationship, it has never been, one of the most healthiest or most friendliest, if we can call it. But how do you see this really moving forward now with the kind of allegations that have now come in from the American side?
Well, I think it really depends very much on who wins this election. If Trump wins the election, it's plain that he's going to double down on hostility between the United States and Iran. Joe Biden and the Democrats have taken a much more tempered view. And perhaps if you can get some of the other issues, particularly the Gaza war and the involvement of Israel in that situation, there can be some possibility for damping this down. But it really is very much dependent upon the American people in terms of whether or not they want to go down the road of increased international hostilities and ultranationalism. That's what's at stake here. And it seems to me the Democrats have to focus on that because, as Ray has said, the majority of Americans are not in favor of having military-style rifles out there in the United States. And yet we have 50 million of them. We're awash with guns here. But it is now
Which is
going
fair,
to go
Raymond, which is a fair
forward.
point, but you know, they might not want rifles and guns out on streets, but the fact of the matter, Ray, is also that a majority of Americans don't want wars. And that is something that the Trump supporters keep saying, that the Biden administration has seen two wars, the Israel-Hamas war and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and a direct or an indirect connection with the United States there. So clearly that is also being considered by Americans this year when they go out to vote.
Well, I would disagree with the assessment that the Biden administration are responsible for either of those wars. They happened while Biden was president, but he didn't encourage them. I mean, President Trump's supporters can say whatever they want, but I don't believe that's necessarily so. I mean, basically, the Trump foreign policy would have given Russia control of Ukraine,
but there are reports that
war
US
or not.
has been supplying arms and ammunition to Ukraine. Isn't that true?
Yes, they have been. And why wouldn't they? Ukraine is a sovereign nation that was invaded by a neighboring nation with no reason. And the United States and most of Europe is supporting Ukraine by supplying them with weapons. I mean, I don't know what people would have us do. Just say, okay, fine, Russia, go ahead and take over Ukraine, by launching a war. When will that stop? Which is, we don't want to have a war, so we'll just let you take over Ukraine. It doesn't make any sense. And I think the vast majority of the American
Ray,
people
but how can
and
you
American
ask
elected
people to
officials
stop
don't agree
war
with that.
and then be supplying arms to one of the sides in the war?
I just don't think that unilateral disarmament works in this situation. I think there needs to be a negotiated settlement in Ukraine. I think clearly Ukraine is going to end up giving up territory that it used to hold because that's probably the only way they're going to get out of this thing. But to say, well, we're not going to supply you with weapons, meanwhile, other people are supplying Russia with weapons, that just doesn't make sense to me.
All right, we leave it there. Let's see how this really moves forward. Ray Locker and Raymond Vickery, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on Nation Tonight and sharing your perspectives. Thank you very much.